Hi, welcome back to Cold Aaron's Kitchen. I'm Wade. Today we're going to cook something from France, beef bourguignon. Now, French cooking, people think the classic stuff is fancy food, but it's actually peasant food. The French nobility and the aristocrats would not eat the food. They would have their food brought in from England and other parts of Europe, Germany. So the peasants had to learn how to make food taste good with very minimal ingredients. So we're going to start out over here. I've got a nice hot pan here. I'm going to add some oil to it. It's probably going to smoke up a little. Then we're going to put in 4 slices of chopped bacon. And we're going to let this bacon get crisped up and render its fat off. Now I'm using a very large pan here. You can use a Dutch oven. Just something that you can put in the oven is important. Okay? Back to you in a couple minutes. We're back. Well, the bacon is just about ready. I've already liberally salted the beef. Now, you can use any cheap cut of beef you want, because this recipe works with thyme and various ingredients to help, make it tender, juicy, delicious. Lots of salt, lots of pepper. Czechoslovakians, it's a code word we use because my dog's named Pepper and she gets worried every time I do that. I think she's afraid she could be next. Take the bacon out. Don't throw it away, it gets to play some more.
That's not dry, that on the floor.
And now we put the meat in the pan. The object here is to sear the beef on all sides, so make sure you got them in a single file, single layer. And this takes about 3 to 4 minutes. So we're not going to bore you with watching beef just sit here and cook. Hi, we're back. We got a nice sear on the meat here. The searing is very important. That helps to lock the juices in. Makes for a happy meal. And I don't mean a teeny-weeny burger or something like that.
You dropped one.
I got to guard it until it cools off. Now, we're going to put in 1 whole yellow onion. About a half pound of carrots. And we're going to sear these up. Now we're going to cook these till the onions turn just a little bit brown. Take about 10-15 minutes. Back to you at that point. Okay, we're back. Well, it's been about 10 minutes. Got a nice brown tint to the onions. Now we're going to add a couple cloves of garlic. We'll let that cook in there. That's got to cook in there for about a minute. Now a little bit more on the history of French cuisine. They had available to them root vegetables. They had available to them onions, garlic. They had available to them some beef stock, some beef, really bad beef. They could always get some bacon, but the peasants were not rich people. So they had to learn how to stretch their food. This is a very hearty dish, and we're going to have some fun with it here in a second. But one thing that the French always seem to be able to get a hold of, booze. So we're going to be playing with a little that. I'm shutting off the burners here. I'm going to wait a few seconds. I'll be right back. Okay, to this pan, we're going to put in a half a cup of brandy. And burn it off. The brandy is to deglaze the pan. So we're just going to burn off that excess alcohol. And then we're going to have to put the meat back in. And it's got a lot of juices coming out of it. We don't lose any of those. Put the meat and the bacon back in. Give it a stir. Yeah, it gets a little exciting here. And then we're going to put in some thyme. Oh, still got some stuff growing up over there. Now, I'm going to put in a mystery ingredient. One I seldom use. I'm supposed to put in tomato paste, but for the amount of tomato paste it's going to need, I'm not going to open a can for it. So we'll just substitute a little bit of ketchup. About that much. Because it's made with tomato paste, we all know that. Stir that in. Turn the burner back on, because we need to get this up to a burble. To this, we're going to add some fresh thyme. A teaspoon and a half. Again, very seldom do they use a lot in the way of spices. Herbs they could get. And a little more salt there. A whole lot of pepper. Czechoslovakian. It's okay. Okay. Give that a stir around. Now, the total prep time on this is about 40 minutes. The total cook time is about an hour and a half. We're going to pop this in the oven, 350 degrees with a tight-fitting lid on it. We're going to wrap that thing in foil and have that cook for about an hour and a quarter in the oven. Then we're going to finish it up on the stove here. But right now, we're going to put in the stuff that makes it virgin wine. Red wine. I'm using a Sangiovese, but you can use any light to heavy body red wine. See how it's mixing with the sauce there? I'm going to use about a little over half a bottle. And to that you're going to add some beef broth, just enough to cover the meat. So let's get this all flattened out, just like so. Okay, partly in the break in filming there, my early warning system went off and let me know there's somebody walking by the house. Okay, we've got it to just about where the top of the meat is. Again, we're going to bring this to a simmer. Once it reaches simmer, we're going to shut it off. We'll throw it in the oven for an hour and a quarter, or until the carrots and the beef are very tender. We'll see a little while. All right, we're back for just a minute or so. We're about ready to pull the beef pan out of the oven, but before we can do that, we have to first saute up about half a pound of criminy mushrooms, and we're making a roux. A roux is a butter and flour mixture, or a fat and a flour mixture. You can use olive oil, but butter was the common use in France because they didn't have access to a lot of olive oil either. It was for the rich people. Olive oil was an import from Italy. So, again, the aristocrats had it, but the peasants didn't. But they made do, because, you know, they milked cows and they made butter. What we want to do is get this all tightened up, and we're making what's called a brown roux, which means we're going to cook this a little longer, make it caramelize slightly. So what we're trying to do is get the fat absorbed into the flour, because we're going to activate the glutens that are in the flour, and what they're going to do is thicken up the sauce that is on this wonderful smelling beef pan, I'm telling you. We've been cooking a few other things while we've been gone, but I'll just tell you what they are, and we'll someday show you how to make them. But they're all part of a traditional meal. So, while I'm cooking this roux and getting my onions, or my mushrooms sweated down, we'll be back to you in just a few minutes. Have fun. Hi, we're back. Well, I've pulled the beef bourguignon, or actually beef Burgandy, we'll use the simplistic term for me, out, and we're adding some of the broth to a very hot skillet there, and we're going to stir the roux into this broth to give it a head start, because we're going to thicken this up just a bit. Now we're probably not going to add all this back to it, just enough to give this a little body. Before we do that though, we're going to put in a cup of frozen pearl onions. You can pick these up in your freezer section. They're usually made by Bird's Eye or C&W Farms. They also have the mushrooms that we're sauteing. Those are going to go in there. And we need to get those incorporated. Notice how it's bubbling up so nicely. Now, again, working with having root vegetables, limited amounts of meat, but you have all the vegetables you can find, root vegetables, herbs, spices, things like that, causes you to be creative in your cooking. Well, the Americans, they liked this stuff. Of course, we know what good food is, and this is pretty darn decent. But all the alcohol is cooked out of this meat. I know, too bad, so sad. But what it has done is infused a flavor throughout the entire project here. Start adding this back here, spoonful at a time, right here. Work that in right there. Because, again, hearty is what we're looking for. Whereas this is a very popular dish in French restaurants. It is also very hearty. And we're going to show you how this is served in about, 20 minutes. Right now I'm just going to go through and thicken this stuff up. And we'll be back to you. Hi, we're back. We've got everything incorporated. We've got a wonderful dinner going on here. If you look down here, what I have is a white bean and rosemary soup, a French potato salad tossed in vinaigrette, and we're going to serve the beef Burgandy, beef bourguignon. It's traditionally served on a piece of toast, just like this. And we're going to put a little garnish on it today. Shake off a little bit of this carrot and put on the top right there. And that's dinner. Thanks for watching Cold Iron's Kitchen. This is Wade.